Hello everyone and welcome to another frontline report from the Military Situation Room. Today we'll be analyzing the latest developments from Ukraine as of December 20th, 2025, and we're going to start with what appears to be a significant Ukrainian push toward Kupiansk, while simultaneously examining the critical situation developing around Myrnohrad in the Donetsk Oblast. We have geolocated footage, reports from multiple military bloggers, and on-the-ground visual confirmations that paint a complex picture of both advancing and defending forces. Let's break down exactly what's happening on the ground. We begin our report in the Kupiansk sector, and frankly, the situation here has become increasingly serious for Russian forces over the past 72 hours. Now, let me show you what we've been able to confirm through geolocated video footage. We have a Russian FPV drone strike that we were able to pinpoint to the Stadion district in the northern part of Kupiansk city itself. Let's examine this footage carefully. In the opening seconds, we see the Russian FPV drone approaching a high-rise building. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Inside this building, we can clearly identify a Ukrainian infantryman positioned on a balcony. Watch his movements here. He appears relatively relaxed, conducting what looks like routine observation. Here's the critical question we need to ask. Would a soldier position himself so openly on a balcony unless he had confidence that surrounding buildings were also under friendly control? The answer is almost certainly no. This geolocated strike occurred in this specific building, from this angle, and when we overlay this with other reports from the area, a pattern begins to emerge. Ukrainian forces appear to have made substantial progress in securing multiple positions within the northern districts of Kupiansk. Now, I want to be very clear here because we've seen similar situations before. Remember Pokrovsk. For months, Russian forces managed to infiltrate small groups of infantry into the city, sometimes even before surrounding villages were fully secured. We had geolocations confirmed deep inside urban areas while the front line was still kilometers away. So the question becomes, are we looking at a full-scale Ukrainian advance, or are these specialized reconnaissance and sabotage groups conducting deep penetration operations? Based on the available evidence, particularly the relaxed posture of troops in exposed positions, it appears more likely that Ukrainian forces have established a more substantial presence than just isolated recon teams. However, the scale of forces involved remains unclear at this time. What we can say with confidence is that the situation in Kupiansk represents a serious tactical challenge for Russian forces, and we're likely to see intensified activity in this sector over the coming days. Moving south to the Donetsk Oblast, let's examine what's happening around Myrnohrad, because this is where we're seeing a completely different operational picture. Multiple Russian military bloggers, including several credible sources, are reporting that final clearing operations in Myrnohrad are currently underway. According to these reports, Russian forces have conducted what they describe as final assaults on the last remaining districts under Ukrainian control within the city itself. Now, here's where we need to exercise caution. While numerous bloggers are discussing these advances, and many claim Russian forces have achieved extensive territorial gains over the past several days, we have not been able to visually confirm most of these claims through geolocated footage. This is important to note. The absence of visual confirmation doesn't necessarily mean the reports are false, but it does mean we cannot verify the exact extent of Russian control with complete certainty. What we can observe is this: the general consensus among military analysts is that Myrnohrad will likely fall under complete Russian control in the relatively near future. The question is not if, but when. Meanwhile, Russian forces are already launching attacks into nearby settlements that would position them for the next phase of operations toward Pokrovsk. Specifically, we're seeing increased activity in H. We had reports several weeks ago indicating Russian presence in the southern part of this settlement. More recently, we obtained footage showing Ukrainian quad bikes being destroyed by Russian forces along Route 0525. And now, fresh information suggests Russian forces have advanced further along Azovska Street. This appears to be the next major objective for Russian operations, essentially securing the flanks around the Pokrovsk, Myrnohrad axis. These territorial gains, if consolidated, would allow Russian ground forces to push further west, potentially toward Udachin and other settlements that form the outer defensive belt of Pokrovsk itself. Let me zoom in on this area. You can see the defensive lines marked in yellow on the map. These are fortified Ukrainian positions. In the video description, you'll find a legend explaining what each marking represents, because there are various colored lines indicating different types of defensive structures and control zones. Now, one of the most critical aspects of this conflict that often gets overlooked is logistics and supply lines. And this is where we're seeing a pattern that explains much of the Russian operational success in recent months. Let me show you what's happening on the ground. We have geolocated footage from multiple sectors showing intensive Russian FPV drone activity, specifically targeting Ukrainian logistics. We're talking about pickup trucks, armored vehicles, anything involved in supply operations being systematically attacked. Here's footage we geolocated today showing a Ukrainian armored vehicle or possibly a pickup truck. It's difficult to determine from this angle attempting to move toward forward positions. Watch what happens. The Russian FPV drone strikes the roof of the vehicle, and you can see the immediate damage. This is happening across multiple frontline sectors. Near Lyman, along the routes into Chasiv Yar, around Konstantinov, everywhere we look, we're seeing this same pattern. Now, this raises several important questions. Are we seeing every Ukrainian vehicle that gets destroyed? Or are these just the successful strikes that get published? Is Ukrainian logistics still functioning through conventional vehicle transport? Or have they shifted primarily to drone resupply and foot movement? These are questions that need to be answered over the coming weeks to get an accurate picture of the logistical situation. But here's what we do know. In several sectors, we've confirmed through geolocated footage that Ukrainian troops are moving to forward positions on foot through tree lines rather than by vehicle. Let me show you this example. Here we have footage of Ukrainian infantry moving along woodland areas near a main road. They're clearly walking to their positions, and then here they come under attack from a Russian FPV drone. Now, imagine you're in a forward position. Supplies are inconsistent. When they do come, they're often delivered by drone rather than vehicle. You might have to walk 20 or 30 kilometers to reach your position. Food arrives sporadically because drone delivery risks revealing your location. That kind of situation puts immense pressure on morale. It's a factor we can't ignore when analyzing why certain positions fall or hold. Let's talk about something that's fundamentally changing modern warfare: fiber optic cable drones. We have footage published by the Ukrainian 63rd Mechanized Brigade showing the extent of this technology's deployment. And frankly, it's staggering. Look at this. This is inside settlements near Lyman. You can see fiber optic cables everywhere running through streets, draped over buildings, creating what looks like a massive spider web across the entire area. This isn't just happening in open fields anymore. This is in villages, towns, urban environments, and Lyman, which has been contested for an extended period, shows this perhaps more dramatically than anywhere else. The cables allow operators to control drones without radio signals that can be jammed. It's a direct physical connection which makes them nearly impossible to counter through electronic warfare. Every frontline sector now looks like this to some degree. The modern battlefield has been transformed by this technology, and we're still figuring out all the tactical implications. What we do know is that these systems are being used extensively by Russian forces to target Ukrainian supply vehicles, as we've discussed. But Ukrainian forces are employing similar systems for defensive purposes and counterattacks. Let's step back and look at the broader operational picture across the Donetsk Oblast. In the Pokrovsk direction, fighting continues around several key settlements. Russian sources claim control of Maysk, Klinovo, and portions of Vozdvizhenka. However, as with Myrnohrad, we haven't received geolocated footage confirming all of these claims. What we have confirmed through visual evidence is Russian presence in the northern part of Ivanopolia. The footage clearly shows Russian forces have taken control of positions in the northernmost section of this settlement. Around Konstantinivka, the situation remains unclear. Multiple military bloggers reported Russian gains in the southern part of the town, and we've been able to confirm some advances visually, particularly along the international highway and nearby residential blocks. Meanwhile, Russian FPV drones are heavily targeting Ukrainian logistics in this area. We're seeing numerous videos of Ukrainian pickup trucks and supply vehicles being struck. Whether this represents the majority of supply attempts or just the successful interdictions remains an open question. West of Chasiv Yar, Ukrainian sources recently reported that positions north and south of the town are under Russian control. When we examine breakthrough points, the Ukrainian mapping resource Deep State tends to be relatively conservative in updating territorial control. However, in other sectors that receive less attention, Deep State updates more quickly. Whether this represents different standards for what constitutes controlled territory versus contested territory, or whether there are other factors at play, we cannot determine at this time. Before we close, a quick note on recent developments beyond the immediate front line. Air attacks continue across multiple sectors. Yesterday, approximately 80 German drones were reportedly used by Russian forces. Today, that number increased to around 160, according to figures published by the Ukrainian General Staff. Additionally, you've likely seen the news that Ukraine has been pledged 90 billion euros for 2026 and 2027. This suggests that this conflict is unlikely to see resolution in the immediate term. And that brings us to the end of today's Frontline report. We condemn all forms of violence and always prefer diplomatic solutions to armed conflict. Our goal here at the Military Situation Room is to provide clear evidence-based analysis of military developments without bias or agenda. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with the next update.